What's going on, everybody? It's Garrett here, back for another product review. We got Ty with Florida Fishing Products. Ty, tell me a little bit about what you guys offer at Florida Fishing.
So primarily, we're a reel company today. We make spinning reels. Right now, we have the new Bahia that we're launching here at Icast 2023. Earlier this year, we launched the Solos, which is a little bit of a lower price point entry level reel. Our flagship reel, though, is our Osprey and Osprey Carbon Edition series. That reel's been out since about January of 2020. And I would say it's one of the most popular inshore reels, inshore saltwater reels on the market right now.
I was going to get ready. This is primarily a saltwater reel. Is that what it's designed for, at least? Yeah.
Exactly. And I say, if you're a freshwater fisherman, you can use saltwater gear. If you're a saltwater fisherman, you really can't use freshwater gear because you need to have that ability to hold up to saltwater corrosion. So they're not perfectly interchangeable, but if you're a freshwater fisherman, you can definitely use their products. But, being Florida based, and my guys are all coastal. I'm coastal. I was born fishing saltwater. Saltwater is our main target market at this point, just because that's what we know best, and that's what we were born and raised doing. So.
Makes sense. I mean, myself, I've gotten a lot more into saltwater the last year or two, and every time I come down, like to Florida for say. I'm always wishing I had a saltwater reel, and I'm stuck with my freshwater stuff. And I'm like, man.
Right. It'll make do. If you're gonna go for one trip in salt, you'll be all right as long as you're not dunking your reel, or you'll spray it off and maintain it afterwards. You'll probably be all right. But if you're doing extensive use in saltwater, you're gonna want a reel that definitely has the right components for saltwater fishing. You got to have the right areas of the reel sealed up. You got to make sure you have the right types of gear and right types of bearings as well. There's varying degrees of stainless steel you can put in your products. That freshwater, it'll be fine, but once you get to saltwater, it could definitely cause some issues with the reels.
So tell me a little bit about your all's new reel. Like, what sets that one apart from other stuff in your lineup, or just other companies in general?
So I'll kind of give you the full background of the Bahia. Basically, it's 7 years in the making. We got started April of 2016. We came out with our original Osprey spinning reel back then. It was a full metal body. We kind of decided we wanted something that was really sleek design, lightweight, and really smooth. And so we were able to find a good manufacturer, put together a great design, and we brought that to market. And people really loved the look and the feel. But there were some things that we needed to work on. Anglers were saying we want a little bit of a lighter weight reel. We want a little bit of a better sealed reel. We're starting to have some issues with bearings over time, and so. Year after year, we were taking feedback, mostly from saltwater fishing guides, and we were tweaking it. And then after about our third year in operation, we launched our Osprey Carbon Edition, which, like I said, was a great reel. And then the last 3 years, we've been taking feedback from that reel, which, in my opinion, is one of the best inshore saltwater reels in the market. But there were definitely improvements that we could make. When it comes to artificial fishing, you're just casting over and over and over and over again. So
you're not like letting it sit out there. And
no bait and weight or anything like that when you're artificial fishing. So having a lightweight reel is extremely important. So that was one area where, as long as we're not sacrificing on drag capacity, smoothness of the reel, and just the structural integrity of the reel, if we could make it lighter, that's something that is worth pursuing. And so that's what we did with the new Bahia. It's a lighter version of our Osprey Carbon Edition. Additionally, it's our most technologically advanced. We introduced our new T3 drag system on it, which is basically a larger diameter drag knob, as you can see here. It takes up the entirety of the spool. And what that allows us to do is to apply pressure more evenly on the drag discs. So initially, when a fish just starts to take off running, we call it a startup inertia, how long it takes for that line to basically to start coming off the reel. And on a lower price point reel that doesn't have a good drag system, it can be jerky, or it's a lag. It takes a little while for that line to start coming out.
That's kind of where you make the difference between a premium spinning reel versus a lower end.
They're a little more sensitive, and it comes down to almost like milliseconds. It's a really quick thing, but it makes a huge difference. When you want to have full control over the fish that you're fighting, especially when you're fishing for bigger game fish. And so having that, more sensitive drag, that's going to lower that startup inertia on those initial runs. You're going to get less hooks pulling. You're going to lose less fish. And then as you're putting more pressure, that's when you start to see drags get a lot more sticky. You start adding more pressure to the drag discs. So by making that diameter of the drag system larger, and spreading that pressure, it allows that drag to stay smoother as you get into those higher ranges of drag capacity. Because this is a small reel. This is a 2,500 size reel. This is inshore saltwater reel for redfish, sea trout. You can do snook.
Small for saltwater.
Right. But it's got 22 pounds of drag, which is incredible for an inshore reel. It's something that, 5-10 years ago, you couldn't do that with a inshore saltwater reel. And today, we're able to do some incredible things. And to have 22 pounds of drag on a 2,500, like you could legitimately pull in a 100-pound tarpon, which we don't recommend people use small reels for big fish, but they have the capability of doing it. And I might know a few guys that do.
I've got a couple buddies that exclusively use spinning reels, and some of them like to frog and stuff up on some of our lakes up there with spinning reels, and they're always talking about how they lose fish because the drag's not tough enough. We can tell them to start using these and horse them out of the grass.
There you go.
Yep. So here we're going to get a close-up on this.
Cool. Yeah, check it out.
It's a beautiful looking reel. I like that all jet black look on it.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what the initial Osprey came out with was jet black with no accent colors. Over the time, we've changed it to have a jet black with that nice metallic look to it, and this one has a little more metallic to it. Definitely a sleeker design, simplistic. We look at guys like Elon Musk and Tesla. They just have really beautiful, very simple designs. But what they do is they have great performance with their product. That's what really sells me. They're simplistic, but they have a lot of power, a lot of engineering that goes behind it, and the performance ultimately is what sets it apart. We don't need to be flashy. We just want the reel to look clean, and the people that use it, they know what the performance is, and that word of mouth is going to help our brand grow. Which so far we've done a great job with that. It's definitely grown a lot over the last few years.
That's awesome. What sizes do you guys offer? I mean, you got the 2,500 here, but do you have any bigger than that?
So it starts at a 1,000, which is about 6.1 ounces, extremely lightweight.
Yeah.
You can definitely use it for sea trout and smaller redfish. I do know guys that use the 1,000s for like big snook off the beaches.
I don't know about that.
I never recommend it, but they do it, and they always come back with these stories.
Your heart broke right there.
Exactly, but dude, that's what they love. They love using ultra lightweight gear for big fish.
Yeah.
So that 1,000 though, I look at as more of like a freshwater and like smaller inshore saltwater game fish reel.
Yeah.
But it can be used for bigger game fish for sure. And then we have our 2,500 that we're looking at today, our 3,000, and then we max out at a 4,000 on this reel. So it's a pure inshore reel. It's not. You can use it for offshore. A 4,000 for a pitch bait for mahi or tuna, it'll work great. It's got 24 pounds of drag, plenty of line capacity. You're not going to get spooled by most of those game fish. We got guys that use them for cobia. Near shore and offshore, for permit near shore, offshore. But once you start getting to like bigger tuna, bigger mahi, bigger game fish, you want to bump up out of that 4,000 size range. So this reel is really for, I'd say, mostly inshore, a little bit near shore, smaller offshore game fish. But
if anybody out there that's listening hasn't inshore fished before, I would say that it's like the most aggressive form of bass fishing that you can, shallow water bass fishing, because like once you hook up on some of those fish, and you're doing some of the similar techniques sometimes, like if you're working like a fluke or something like a soft plastic jerkbait, it's kind of the same concept as you are freshwater fishing. But this stuff is designed to hold up to a big red or snook that's a lot more powerful than your typical largemouth or smallmouth would be. That those things will give you a run for your money and kind of tug you around.
For sure, especially over here on the East Coast, Mosquito Lagoon's about an hour east of us here. I mean, we get 50-inch redfish on the flats.
Holy crap!
That's a big fish. That's a big fish. And when you're fishing for sea trout and like slot redfish, and a 50-inch redfish comes pushing in, or a whole school of them, you want to have an inshore reel that can handle that. And that's the benefit of using an inshore saltwater reel like the Bahia that has a lot of drag capacity, a lot of line capacity. They can handle those big game fish.
Yeah, so you can really give them some pressure on that thing.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're just going to be either they're going to spool you or just going to take you along, you wherever they want to.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's a cool offering. I'm glad you came on to share that with us.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a cool product.
For sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. You know, we talked a lot about the product. You know, if you don't mind, I'll talk about the company just for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, how we
Go
initially
ahead.
got started, it was April 2016. In my area of Southwest Florida, we had really, really bad red tide. And it was tied back to water in Lake Okeechobee, which, you know, as a bass guy, you might be familiar with Lake O. So Lake Okeechobee has a huge dike around the south end of it, and basically all of the water flows in Florida from north to south into Lake Okeechobee. There's a lot of pollutants in Lake Okeechobee, and basically they have to unnaturally dump it out the east and west coast of Florida because of the way the dike has been built. And so my fishery gets a lot of that unnatural runoff essentially every summer. And with it, the pollutants, and those pollutants then spur the red tide algae blooms. And so in 2016, we just got hammered, man. My fishery got decimated. And my buddy and I were just looking at the fishery or the fishing industry and saying, okay, who's doing something about this? Who's speaking up? Like, this is an outrage. You know, to us, we were outraged.
For sure.
And
I mean, that's your livelihood that they're messing with there.
For sure. You know, at the time, that was our passion. We weren't in the industry yet, although I worked for boat companies, so essentially it was. But yeah, it was what I loved and what I was passionate about. So to see my fishery dying before me, you know, I thought someone needed to do something about that. So we looked to the guys that had a lot of money in the industry, the big brands. But for them, you know, it's not as much of an issue. You know, they're national brands or global brands. So an issue in Southwest Florida isn't necessarily important to a company that's based in California or South Carolina or in different areas. So we kind of looked at that and said, you know, there's really no small local spinning reel companies here in the fishing industry. You have small local rod companies and lure companies and fly companies, but spinning reels, it was only the big guys. And so we thought that, you know, if we're upset about this,
it kind of seems like there's only the big guys, basically. But the last couple of years, I've seen a lot more smaller companies, and I really appreciate that.
For sure. I think social media, e-commerce has helped a lot. You know, it used to be much more difficult to get in contact with manufacturers. Now, you know, almost anyone can find a good manufacturer if they do the right amount of research and they know what they're doing. So it's definitely closed the gap for smaller brands like us and really opened the door for us to come into the industry and really make a splash. You know, previously the big brands, they could just kind of hold it down and, you know, they had all the market share, but there's definitely a lot more competitors now.
Monopolize the market.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. So you guys came up with your own spinning reel. Then where'd you go from there?
Yeah, so, I mean, it was born of the frustration from conservation. We saw the opportunity within you know, so the saltwater industry, at least, with spinning reels. And so we just started with what I was saying before, the original Osprey, and then we progressed from there all the way to this new reel today, the Bahia. But, you know, we work a lot with nonprofit organizations. We probably work with like hundreds of them throughout the year. We sponsor tons of tournaments, tons of kids events, fundraisers for different organizations.
It's really awesome to see companies that are giving back.
Absolutely. I mean, the industry is giving so much to us. I feel like just fishing is giving so much to us. It's what we love to do. I feel like the least we can do is try to give back and leave it a little bit better than how we found it. You know, you're young like me, so we're kind of receiving estuaries that have been
everybody else's labor from past generations.
And it's a lot of estuaries aren't doing super great. I think there's a lot that we can do. So I think for us, it's important. Our generation, I want to leave this better. I want to leave our fisheries better for my kids than I found them, essentially. So that's really one of our main goals with Florida Fishing Products. One of our main missions is to create a culture of conservation-minded anglers, and I think we're there today. Most people here at this show, they understand conservation is extremely important, and restoring our estuaries is extremely important to our livelihood. But there's still a lot of work to be done, and so that's one of our main missions is to support conservation organizations and use our resources and our platforms to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's a big thing, especially like if you've got any kind of presence on social media to be able to do that every now and then, or as a company. It's awesome to spread that thought out there so that other people can start putting that in their mind.
For sure. And I see a lot with younger generations, even younger, 15 to 20 years. They're really passionate about conservation. They want to get involved. They want to make things better. And so I think, each year we're going to see more and more younger guys and gals coming into the fishing industry that they want to make a difference, they want to give back, and they want to leave things better too. So yeah, just by us talking about conservation, it makes it more just more present, and people will listen to this, and hopefully it'll inspire them to go out there and say, hey, I want to do a community cleanup, or I want to work with a conservation partner and do my part too.
Yeah. That's good, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to speak
absolutely.
with us about your all's new product and and spreading the word of some good stuff that you guys are doing.
For sure, man. I really appreciate you guys hosting the podcast. Thanks for having me on the podcast today. And it was a pleasure to meet you. And hopefully we'll see you again at Icast 2024.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have to probably pick up some of those saltwater reels before I do that. So
definitely,
I'll be more prepared for the inshore
there
battles with some. I caught my first snook and tarpon the other day.
Nice.
On this trip.
Cool.
So that's got me hooked.
Yeah, no pun intended, right?
Yeah, no pun intended.
On the East Coast?
Yes, sir. In the Indian River area.
Awesome. Yeah, that area is a great fishery. And speaking of conservation, it's one that we've seen decline in years past. And recent years, it's starting to recover, which is good.
They had a lot of issues with red tide there for a while, like because I used to live there for 4 or 5 years, like in the late 2000s, around 2008 to 2010, and it seemed like every year they had a red tide coming through that kind of demolished a lot of that.
Yeah. It's definitely it's been bad, but they're doing the right things to make a difference, and we're starting to see that. But it's going to take decades for it to get back to what it was, in my opinion. And there's a lot of work to be done.
Hopefully it gets there. Hopefully we keep that going.
Yes, absolutely, man. Well, thank you again, G. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. It's good talking with you.
Yeah, likewise, man. Likewise. Stories,